Hi everybody, welcome back to Goshen Prepping. I'm glad you're here. When it comes to prepping, stockpiling, getting things you need for crap hits the fan, or you know what, for any emergency, there's sometimes you can pick up one or two things and that's okay. But there's certain items you should have lots and lots and lots of them. I would even say hoard, but people really get hung up on that word sometimes. I would have 10 or more of just these specific items because they are that useful and that handy. So let's go to the list of 13 things you want to have lots and lots of. Number one, ways to make fires. Being able to start and maintain a fire is very important because you may have a wood stove or some way to keep warm in your house, or you maybe need to cook outside because there's no more electricity or gas. So having a way to make a fire is really good. There's numerous ways to do that. First, you have to light the fire. And here you can see two different possibilities when it comes to getting lighters. These ones I get at a store called Menards. I like the torch lighters. They make things catch on fire very quick and easy. But we also have this one. Next time you're at Walmart shopping, don't go to like the camping aisle or the outdoor aisle and buy the lighters there. Go up. This is always like in the checkout area, and it's really inexpensive to have a multi-pack of lighters. We have lots and lots of these to be able to set in all our backpacks or set around the house so we can always start fires if need be. Secondly, I would also recommend getting I call these my burn bags. And for every one of our bags, it doesn't matter if we're talking about a get-home bag, bug-out bag, backpacking bag for camping, we have these burn kits or these burn bags. In here I have lighters, like you saw. I literally have magnesium fire starters. I have wax fire starters that you can, with lint on them to get fires going. But everything you need to start a fire. I even have steel wool with a 9-volt battery. So lots of ways to start fire because it really is that vital. So don't just get one or two of these things, but get tons of each of these to be able to start a fire when you need to when crap hits the fan. Number two, knives and multi-tools. And everybody has that one prepping addiction of things they love to buy. I love knives. I am such a knife person. So I have a wide array of different just types of knives. So many different uses, so many different advantages to different ones. I just love them. And I like to use them, obviously. I carry them wherever I go to just open up letters and envelopes. But I train tactically in case I have to use the knife for self-defense. Beyond that, multi-tools. These are great. This is a little tiny one that I got from a Bass Pro Shop, I think it is. Cabela's, so little tiny little guy. It's good to have these, you can carry them in your pocket or a little bag. All of our kids have these little Swiss Army knife knockoff little ones. It's good to have these knives. Or you can even get like these giants. You ever seen one of these? It's a cat multi-tool. Wow, we talk about normally multi-tools being like this. Look at this guy. This thing has huge knives and blades in it. I picked these up at Sam's Club, and it's funny, what I find is in the springtime they have them their full price, and by the time fall comes around, they drop the price on them substantially, so you can pick them up for a fraction of the price. Now, carrying this thing on my belt, it gets heavy, but I definitely have some of these, so they can be around in my gear, whatever I need to be able to use any type of knives for tools to be able to make things, whatever the case may be. So make sure you have lots of knives and tools, multi-tools to get by. Number three, flashlights. And there are so many different flashlights to choose from headlamps to just your standard flashlights. I have lots of flashlights that use batteries, but I like these ones specifically because they're rechargeable, USB-C, so I can plug it in my solar generator, and these are super bright. Do what you need to do. This is my really heavy-duty bright one, and I'll link this below, by the way, if you want to get it. I'm not going to shine at the camera because it'd be super bright. The ad says like 250,000 lumen. It's probably not, but it has the tactical part on it, so you can whack somebody in the head, but it is super bright. But I also have a lot of things like this. This is a squeeze light, and for every one of my kids especially, they have these inside their backpack, so that way they can use those because, kids, they love to get these flashlights and then turn around and leave them on and kill your battery, so squeeze lights. And of course, they're bright enough to do things with. They're not super mega bright, but for kids, they don't have to be super mega bright. Then I have some of these crank ones, and they are cranking, so you can use the dynamo to crank it up, which works. But what I like is these solar powder parts. So when I don't use these lights, I put them on like a windowsill and we'll charge them up. In fact, I found, sure enough, one of the kids used this flashlight and let it sit around and kill the batteries. And I sometimes, have it when you have these rechargeables. Once you kill it, it dies for good. But I put it on the windowsill for 2 days and it works just fine. So I obviously have lots of flashlights to be able to need it for power outs, etc., to be able to fumble around in the dark. Number four, batteries. And I don't mean buy a pack of batteries. I mean buy a pack of batteries. What I do is this. There's stores like, for example, near us is a store called Menards. It's a huge hardware store chain in the North Midwest. And like every year, it's usually around Black Friday, they will have these giant packs for incredibly expensive, like $4. I stock up on them. I buy lots and lots of batteries. Now, I try to go with a lot of rechargeable stuff, so that way I can charge it with my solar generator. But nevertheless, having the batteries for battery operated things is essential too. Again, I have kids. They have toys that require batteries anyway, but have lots of batteries on hand for whatever you might need. Not even just the AA's, AAA's, sometimes size C and D, 9-volt batteries too, but there's so many different watch batteries that fit into like scope lasers and stuff. Make sure you have all those batteries in stock. Keep them in a nice, cool, dark area to keep the charge as long as possible, but stock up on a ridiculous amount of batteries. Number 5, water filtration. And water filters go the same way. They don't last forever. Even if you have a Berkey, make sure you have a lot of the inserts that go in there. I like my American Reserves gravity filter, but same thing, uses the ceramic stuff. My water pump uses water filters. I have a Katadyn. I have a few Katadyns, by the way. I have this one, which is like a seriously strong metal Katadyn that will do thousands and thousands of gallons. I'm in love with this guy. But I have a backpacking one as well. But what they all have in common, I don't care if you're using the Life Straw or Sawyer, they have a limited shelf life. I mean, not shelf life, they'll sit on the shelf, but they have a limited life as far as how many gallons they'll go. So make sure you have a wide variety of water filters, lots of different ones, so you can use them for different cases. I mean, even the Life Straw, I'm not about sucking up water from the side of a stream. They have the bottle Life Straw ones. I have one of those too. Those aren't too bad, but you're only talking about a few hundred gallons at the most for those things. So make sure you have plenty of different types of water filters, because water is the number one prep you have to have for sustainability. Number 6, first aid supplies. You want to be prepared for any type of medical emergency that may come your way, especially crap hits the fan. An ambulance is not going to come pick you up. So what you need to do is buy first aid stuff, but buy it in bulk. Like, for example, here's a giant pack of 4x4 gauze. If you buy a first aid kit, it'll have like just a few of these in there. But when you buy it in bulk, you can make your own first aid kits and save a lot of money. I mentioned this in the past. If you go below and go to our website, I have a link there. You can buy a medical checklist for $2 that'll tell you all the different possible medical supplies you might want to pick up. Or if you want to just pay $12 and have all the checklists, you can do that too. But either way, medical supplies, you can never get enough. Besides buying bulk, something I like to do too is go to yard sales or estate sales. And as you go around, often you'll have these huge boxes full of all this medical stuff that people, especially an estate sale, by the way, they don't know what to do with all these medical things. They're brand new. So they'll toss them in a box and put it for literally next to nothing, because medical supplies are really expensive. And when you buy them in bulk at yard sales, you can get it at and I really mean a fraction of the price. They're so inexpensive that way. But either way, make sure you have lots of medical gear. Number 7, communication devices. Communicate with neighbors, with your community. At the very least, I always recommend getting little walkie-talkies. So when I first bought these years ago, they were rechargeable and I have a base for them. And the rechargeable batteries have since died. So I just put regular AA's in them now, and they work just fine. We have a bunch of these whenever my kids go out on the property, or if I go out on the property and my wife's back at home, whatever, I will carry these with us so that way we can contact with each other. And of course, I've also talked about communications, my ham radios, which I love these things. I got a bunch of different ones. This really is the set I recommend, by the way, because you get 2 of them so you can communicate back and forth. To be able to use this like a walkie-talkie, for example, you don't have to have a license for that, just family radio signals, and you can talk back and forth. Again, inexpensive, but these do have the rechargeables still that work great. So I put these in the cradles to charge it up. But it's not always just communications with each other. You also want to look at getting some different types of radios. This is the one I love from American Reserves. I talk about it all the time because I have, let me pull up my stack here. I have this one here, which I also still recommend, by the way. It's a little cheapy guy that I get from Amazon. I'll link it below. It works. It has some good music. I can't turn it on. I almost got a copyright strike. That's what YouTube is. But it'll play music. It's monotone. It's one speaker to hear weather, news, and stuff. That's all you really need. But when you look at this American Reserves one, it's stereo, and it really is. It locks in the stations because this one's analog. You have to fumble with the tuner on it. Have you ever done that before? This one's digital and tunes right in. This guy is great. I love this thing. So when I first looked at it, getting it from American Reserves, I'll be honest, I was a little skeptical because I was like, it's just another radio, but it's not just another radio. I'm in love with this. But either way, no matter what radios you choose, obviously have a bunch of radios not only to communicate with one another, but be able to listen to news and weather, which obviously could be vital and save your life. Number 8, ammunition. So whatever caliber firearm you have, let's say you have a 12 gauge shotgun, buy so much 12 gauge ammo. You can you can buy it anywhere, by the way. Birdshot, buckshot, whatever you need or possibly might be able to need in the future as for hunting or self-defense. Maybe you have a handgun that's a 9mm, then stockpile tons and tons of 9mm ammo or whatever caliber type of gun you have. Now, what I find is some preppers do this, which I get it. They buy like every single possible handgun or rifle they come across, and they have like an amazing, huge collection. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm certainly not saying it's bad. I'd like to have a huge collection too. But instead, what I always tell everybody is to focus on that one or two guns that you have. Let's say you have a handgun that's 9mm. Focus on that handgun at 9mm, become incredibly proficient at it. Let's say you have a 12 gauge shotgun. Focus on that 12 gauge shotgun. Let's say your hunting rifle is a 30-06. Focus on that 30-06. And if that's the only 3 guns you have, I'd rather you put the extra money into a ridiculous amount of ammo for those 3 guns, and that way you can practice and also have it standing by, than buying like tons and tons of guns and only having a little bit of ammo. That's just not smart. You may want to possibly have one backup for each one perhaps, but that's different than just having this massive collection. If you have all the money in the world, have a big collection of the ammo with it. But personally, I'd rather have a few guns and have more ammo to support those few guns than the other way around, because it is about practice and drilling and training. And of course, what good is a firearm going to do when you have no ammo for it when crap hits the fan? Number 9, getting food. And this is a weird one in the category, granted, but bear with me. When we talk about stockpiling lots of things, you want your food to be very diversified as well. I talk about getting things from the grocery store like rice and beans, dry rice and beans. It's great, but don't get just dry rice and beans. Get canned food. Don't even get foods like that, but get freeze-dried food. Dehydrate your own food. For freeze-dried food, I love American Reserves. They have the meals, which actually are really good. Surprisingly, like I have a bunch of MREs. Get MREs. MREs, in my opinion, are not so tasty. I had way too much of that in my past. But there's other things you could do too. Besides simply stockpiling food, you can garden. You can have an orchard. You can learn to hunt. You can learn to fish. You can learn to forage and getting mushrooms from the forest. So many ways you can get food. So don't just simply stockpile one type of food, but have a huge diversification and try to get food in many different areas. So that way it's a better backup for you than simply just, putting all of your stuff into one area. Number 10, clothing. And I know this goes against the ideals of being a minimalist, but having all the clothing specifically for whatever you're doing is so important. Like when I'm out working, I have a set of Carhartts. I actually have Carhartt bibs, but in the wintertime, I have a Carhartt knockoff, Blue Mountain, I think it's called, jacket. It works just as well as my Carhartts. But it's not even simply just having the right clothes, but having an overabundance sometimes of certain clothes. Like, for example, I have hats for the wintertime. Up here in Michigan, it gets really cold. So having a bunch of different hats, you can put the hats into different bags. You can put them in different cars, always having these to keep warm. Or socks. Here's some different wool socks I have. Always having lots and lots of extra pair of socks in your bags and in your drawers at home is always good. Another different types of hats too. Instead of just having a wool hat, something to protect your head. This is my summer wear around hat. I love this hat. But I have a whole bunch of ball caps too to be able to wear around and protect your head. And then gloves. So many different gloves. Like, for example, you can get just some straight winter gloves. To keep your hands warm. They're not waterproof, but they'll keep you warm for walking around. Or maybe you actually need some winter insulated gloves for working. I picked these up from that store, Menards, also. Black Friday special. Like, I'm not kidding. It was like $3 or $4 for the pair. And these are so comfortable and warm, but being leather, they work really well. Of course, you can get just the cheapy gloves, if we're looking at working, that's better than nothing. Having a bunch of these laying around, you can get them in bulk. And then if we're talking about specifically like tactical gloves, I love my tactical gloves too. Have the actual knuckles on there, so that way if someone tries to fight after you, you can punch it back. They say it's to protect your knuckles from getting injured, but we know all what it's really for. So make sure you have like even boots too, rubber boots for walking in the mud, hiking boots for long hikes, and don't just buy them, but wear all these things and practice with them. There's nothing worse if you have to like bug out or go somewhere wearing a pair of boots you've never worn before. Next thing you know, your feet are killing you and you're dying. So either way, have lots of those things. Don't simply just settle for 1 or 2 pair, but have lots of backups as well. Number 11, keeping warm. And I know as we head into spring, this is not as important, but if you're seeing this video as winter's coming around, lots of different ways to keep warm. In our house, once we moved here, I bought a wood burning stove and installed it. It is fantastic. But you know what? There's propane heaters like the Buddy heater, We also have one of those giant cage kerosene heaters. Those things are great. Beyond that, even having, we like buying the actual correct temperature for sleeping bags, like cold weather bags for up here in Michigan. But even beyond that, if you just have a lot of sleeping bags, a lot of blankets, you can layer, and layer is a great way to keep warm too. So make sure if you ever come across a sale on blankets or something, pick them up. Sale on sleeping bags, pick them up, or especially heating devices, be diversified because, if you run out of propane, we still have some kerosene. Ran out of kerosene, we still have our wood stove, and have multiple ways to keep warm. Number 12, medicine. I'm not sure what kind of medicine you take. Over the counters, perhaps. Maybe you have prescriptions. So try to stock up on those. Stock up on antibiotics if you can. Sometimes some physicians, if you know them well enough, will write you a prescription just to keep on hand for these circumstances. And of course, there's lots of services you can pay a lot of money for and get prescriptions that way too. But it goes beyond that. Not simply just medical gear, which we talked about, but certain things that are specific you need medically, like glasses, for example. I buy my glasses online. I think it's like $50 a pair. They're not super amazingly quality glasses. They'll last, 6 months, if not more. And I always take the old pair. Unless they have big gashes in them, I'll just simply put them into one of those nice little glasses case and save it. Maybe put it in extra backpacks because, if something hits the fan while you're driving and your glasses get smashed, you always have that extra older pair inside your bag that you can throw on because, having an older pair that's a little bit scratched up is better than no glasses at all. So make sure you have all the different types of prescription medications and everything that you need handy. And number 13, can openers. Now, if you can get away with it, don't buy the pull top cans. They can still last really well. You just have to be really careful with those guys, make sure they don't get ruptured. But if you don't have the can openers, what are you going to do? In reality, by the way, you can take a can and turn it upside down and put it on a rock and scrape it around. You ever done this before? It works because it simply just wears away the seal and you will get the can open. So you don't have to kind of like squeeze it or pry open. But nevertheless, especially for every bug out bag, get home bag, for all over your house, for your camping sets, everything, can openers are inexpensive, guys. Make sure you have lots of can openers because rubbing it on the rocks is kind of a drag after a while. All right, so there you go. 13 things, guys. Don't just buy these things, but buy lots of these things and have lots of backups. Of course, this list is not exhaustive, so what would you put on it? What are some things that you don't want to just buy, but you want to have tons of to be able to prepare for whatever the case may be, an emergency or crap hits the fan? Put in the comments below, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.